Thembani Media presents His Excellency President Mnangagwa on Brick by Brick and the Third Eye full interview.
How do you, as the leader of a risk-setting Zimbabwe, fit into the vision of the founding fathers? And what do you think the new crop of African leaders should bring to this vision?
We have to change our focus. Instead of believing in the former colonial powers for growth, industrialization and modernization of our economies, we should internally focus on our resources and share the benefits accruing to different economies of Africa, so that we benefit our respective countries in the pursuit to grow our respective economies and as well as collectively modernize Africa. I believe that there's great potential that in the future Africa remains a continent with resources that have not been fully exploited. There's a possibility that the crop of leaders that will come after us will take Africa to a higher level, where Africa might be a power in the world, not the current powers that are there.
Last week, there was a big recognition given to one of the sons of Africa, the son of the land, former President Sabora Machel, the African Liberation Museum. Are you going to broaden this recognition to cover the other founding fathers of Africa, especially President NASA and the others?
Well, we can look at this at two levels. When we look at President Samora Machel and the relationship with the liberation of Zimbabwe in particular, he played a significant role. Yes, we were based initially in Zambia, and the Zambia President Kaunda was very solid as a liberator of Southern Africa, assisting Angola through the MPLA, Namibia through SWAPO, Zimbabwe through ZANU and the ZAPU, South Africa ANC and the PAC, and so on and so on. But at the height of the armed struggle of this country, the late President Samora Machel was very principled in assisting us to liberate our country. He closed the border between Rhodesia and Mozambique at a critical time when they had just become independent. That crippled and affected the economy of Mozambique, but he felt that there was no glory for Mozambique to play independent when its neighbor, Zimbabwe, was a colony. So he sacrificed that and stood for us. Besides that, we not only fight from Mozambique into Zimbabwe or Rhodesia then, but we also had the colleagues from Frelimo, whom we operated with in Zimbabwe, in Rhodesia then. So we have shared blood with the people of Mozambique in Zimbabwe. Therefore, this is an opportunity to say thank you to the people of Mozambique for their great leader, Samora Machel. And to recognize that sacrifice he did for his country and for us. We felt it necessary that we give him space and grant Mozambique an opportunity to construct a monument for Samora Machel. Yes, we had people like Abdul Gamal Nasser. For instance, I was in the Arab Republic of Egypt in 1963, May, June, thereabout, for training under Abdul Gamal Nasser. So he also assisted, Egypt assisted us to train for liberation. So it was not only Zimbabwe or Rhodesia at the time who was assisting. I met people and the colleagues from Mozambique. In Heliopolis, in Egypt. I met people from the ANC in Egypt. So Abdul Gamal Nasser was really a tower of political power and liberation for the African continent. He was quite a visionary. He ranked the same like people like Kwame Nkrumah, the Nyereres in our area here. So I've suggested to President Sisi, when I met him recently in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, that if he accepts, we would want Egypt under President Sisi to construct a monument for Abdul Gamal Nasser for the visionary manner in which he supported the liberation of Africa. And he was happy for that offer.
Your Excellency, there seems to be a resurgence of Pan-Africanism. Would you say this is a Nkrumah reincarnate?
Well, I don't know what you understand about Pan-Africanism.
Yes.
What I understand myself at that time, in the early 60s, when we articulating about Pan-Africanism, it was a way of those independent African countries to assist the liberation of colonized African countries. They needed to be Pan-Africanists for the African countries to collaborate, to liberate ourselves, become independent. I don't know how Pan-Africanism applies now, because that was extremely political. But today we are not emphasizing much on political issues, because we are now all independent. We are now looking for integration. I don't know whether integration can also be Pan-Africanism integration.
I thought Pan-Africanism would come in the context of seeking economic independence.
This is what I'm saying. You may stretch the meaning, but at the time it was being applied is what I have said. That's what I understood at the time. Fortunately, I was there. You were not there. Fortunately, I was there, so I understood it in that context.
Okay.
But now, if we extend the meaning to mean continental integration, economic integration, visa integration, and so on, it's welcome. I don't think it is misplaced.
But do you think our current African economies are speaking to African unity? Because you earlier alluded to the fact that we should move from the rhetoric of the founding fathers. Now we are independent. But having been in power and having interacted with your colleagues across Africa, do you think our economies now are speaking to African unity?
Our African economies are at different levels of development, you understand. But what is critically important is that whenever the AU meets, this is one of the topics which we discuss, that we should share our resources, we should integrate our resources, we should assist each other to modernize and to grow our economies. Most of our economies were tied to the colonial powers. We are lucky here because we had the sanctions. Because we have over 400 companies in this country linked to Britain. And when they imposed the sanctions, the British companies cut their relationship with the child companies in Zimbabwe. So that has helped us to be more independent, to pull away from the British. Other countries have had no opportunity or the advantage of sanctions. So they find it, some may find difficult to move away, if Portuguese to move away from Portuguese influence, if the French move away from the French colonies. Recently, I don't think I showed George, but I showed Minister of Finance, President Macron making an apology. Have you read it? You've seen it? You've seen the apology?
Yes.
Yes, saying that now he's apologizing for the inhuman treatment of the African people in the French colonies. And he says, we were looting your gold, we were looting your diamonds, we took your artifacts and so on. Oh, we are apologizing. And we think, I've forgotten the figure, the trillion number of I don't know, the trillion US dollars, or is it francs? He says he estimates has been looted from African French colonies. And now he's making that apology. But we know that at the time French gave independence to its colonies, they remained tied to France. And when they're giving independence, they said, we give you independence above the soil, not under the soil of your countries. I hope they've now changed, but that was at the time of independence. But this has not been the same with us. When we said we want independence, yes, initially we got political independence in 1980, but after 1990, we assumed full independence, because now the provision that Lancaster Constitution expired, and we are both independent in terms of politics and in terms of our resources. No one gives us direction as to what we must do with our resources. We have to say, how do these resources benefit us? When we don't have the technology, the skills, or the global capital to exploit them, they can stay down. We will not allow other countries to come and exploit us just because we don't have the technology. Nada.
Your Excellency, are you saying there are blessings in sanctions?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Because of these sanctions, it forced us to turn inwards, right? The sanctions were intended to collapse our economy, to collapse our currency, to have the population of this country rise against the government. Those things have not happened. Yes, the economy collapsed, the currency collapsed, but when we decided we must now look to what we have and depend on all the resources to build our country ourselves, now our economy is recovered and it is now on a growth trajectory. We've now introduced our own currency. Yes, it's under attack. We expect it, but we are still going to survive, we are going to succeed because we believe in ourselves.
Thank you. Your Excellency, over the past few months, you have hosted quite a number of heads of state and you have traveled outside the country. Would you say Zimbabwe is now inward looking, continentally, looking at solutions, looking at solutions from an African perspective?
No, that is engagement and engagement. Yes. We engage because we want to relate to the international community, the Committee of Nations. We re-engage with those who are disengaged for whatever reason. We say we are ready to engage you. But if they refuse, it's their business, our door is open. That's what we are talking about. But as far as our economy is concerned, we are now 23 years under sanctions. And in those 23 years, we have never received foreign direct lines of credit for the country. How have we survived? Because we've looked inwards and they say we shall survive from what we ourselves can produce and market. And we are so happy with that. Had we not had no sanctions of this nature in this country, we could have still been believing that to build a road we need the international tender. Mm-hmm. To build a dam we need the international tender. All those things, we have busted that myth. We now know if we want to construct a dam of any size, but Guayshangani Dam is a lack. We're building with our engineers. Chakarama Dam.
Yes, yeah. We were there.
Yes. We're building the dams on our own. Yes. We're making roads on our own. Yeah. But in the past, we believed that these huge projects required international tender. Now, away with international tender. We are doing it ourselves.
Your Excellency, in a few months' time, there's going to be a BRICS meeting in South Africa. Have you been invited to St. Petersburg by President Putin?
Yes, I'm going. I've been invited. In fact, every time there is, since I came to office, each time there is a Russia-Africa summit, I've been invited and I go. Mm-hmm. There's no change.
Your Excellency, South Africa has been subjected to so much pressure by foreign countries like America. They really don't want South Africa to host President Putin. Would you go when...
the Americans have their own democratic right to put the pressure on whom they want. And those who are having pressure from America, they have a democratic right to refuse to be pressurized. And I understand my dear brother Cyril is so clear about that. He is independent, a sovereign state of the Republic of South Africa.
Okay. Last week, Zimbabwe received helicopters from Russia.
Yes. No, they received, they purchased.
Yes, Zimbabwe received helicopters after purchasing them from Russia. Mm-hmm. What does this suggest in terms of Zimbabwe's foreign policy vis-a-vis the West?
What do you mean? We cannot go and buy helicopters from a country which has put sanctions on us. What stupidity would that be? You go and acquire from those who accept you. And Russia accepts Zimbabwe. Mm-hmm. Yes. And so we were able to purchase those 18 helicopters because we've gone through several disasters and we've not been able to assist helping our people, especially this one, Cyclone Idai. Many people, over 600 people died. And we had no capacity to rescue some of our people. So I thought in my mind it was necessary to capacitate ourselves so that if any disaster comes, we should be able to do so.
You're not afraid that this may strain relations?
An independent country being afraid of what?
The pressures from the West.
No one can put pressure on me. Only the Zimbabwean people can put a pressure on their president, not in outside. I mean, how can I lose sleep if someone is somewhere and he's on the capital? Yeah. Things are putting pressure on me. How does it come?
You sleep well?
Extremely well. But if the Zimbabwe put pressure, I understand.
Okay. Your Excellency, let me take you to BRICS, because you're talking about BRICS versus the Commonwealth. What are Zimbabwe's chances of joining the BRICS? And is the country ready for the new shift in global affairs?
I'll answer the first part.
Yes.
Then you explain the global shift, which you understand. We may have different understanding.
Okay.
The first part, Zimbabwe has applied to join the BRICS Bank.
The BRICS Bank.
Yes. And the process is quite positive currently.
Okay.
Yes. We also applied to join the BRICS organization. Again, the process is quite positive. All that is work in progress. Yeah, that's if you are asking about that. But I don't know when BRICS. I don't know talking about the BRICS Bank or BRICS organization. But for both,
yes.
yeah, for both,
yes.
we've applied to join. I've contacted my brother Cyril also to speak for us in the BRICS. I've contacted my brother Xi Jinping of China, and is willing to assist in that regard. Then I've also contacted Brazil. They're willing. I've not yet contacted India. Yeah, but when I have opportunity, I'll talk to my brother Modi of India. That you see, they could assist us in that regard. But so far, it's work in progress.
Good. And the second question is the country ready for the new shift in global affairs?
What is the shift?
Now we see the BRICS are talking about introducing their own currency. The BRICS are asserting themselves on the world stage. They want to move away from this hegemony that America has had over us for some time.
One point is we are not in BRICS. We are trying to join, so I cannot comment on the activities of an organization in which I am not. But what I am doing as an outsider, I'm in agreement. As an outsider, I'm in agreement.
And you also want to join the Commonwealth? Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
We've applied to join the Commonwealth, and very soon they'll be making a determination. They've sent 2 or so missions to Zimbabwe to assess us, and the reports are positive. So that's normal.
Your Excellency, recently you visited the UK for the coronation of the king there. Would you say that visit was the turning point of the relations between Zimbabwe and the UK?
No. The ones who have a turning point are them. We've never closed our door against the British. Those who have opened the door is the one who asked the question. Is this a turning point? You're now opening a door for the people who closed out. Those people should ask that question. As far as I'm concerned, we never closed our door to go to Britain. So when I got an invitation, I went. It's them who have the problem, not me.
Yeah.
It's very clear.
And how were the meetings when you went to?
And I've so far now have 2 meetings. I had a meeting with the Minister of African Affairs, Mr. Michel. I met him, and there were almost an hour of discussions, and we have agreed to continue these discussions with Michel. I was very positive, and he thinks that this standoff doesn't benefit Britain, doesn't benefit Zimbabwe. It is necessary that we find each other. Then I said, of course, those who have climbed the tree can climb it down. We never climbed any tree.
Yeah, but I would want to ask, is it an acceptance by Britain that they have lost in their attempts to do regime change and remove the legitimate government here, and also a recognition of the fact that you have made solid gains at home, real improvements? So this invitation that is extended to you?
Well, they've never openly said they've lost. But what I notice, what I glean, is that they believe the standoff does not benefit them, nor does it benefit us. We have moved on. I don't know whether they've moved on. But now it is them who have opened the door. So if it's logical that they think it is necessary to have relations with us, it's a logical conclusion, unless I'm mistaken.
Your Excellency, let's touch a bit on a few months ago, you hosted the president of Belarus, President Lukashenko. This was clearly a show of defiance in terms of the position that the West has taken, considering his close relations with Russia. Don't you think that visit also has the potential to cause a strain of relations with the West?
The United Nations is composed of 193 countries. There is no law at the United Nations that the countries should not have relations with each other. You understand that?
Yes.
So no country gives us who should be our friend and who should be our enemy. It is only us who choose whom we invite and whom we do not invite.
Yes.
You see? So we invited President Alexander Kashuk and he accepted. And then he came. And when the visit was over, he went back. And we remained. And he's in his home. So no one has questioned me why he was here, except you.
Yeah. Your Excellency, I want you to bring back home to Zimbabwe.
Mm-hmm.
This country has huge deposits of lithium, oil, uranium, and other strategic minerals that put the country on call in terms of global power politics. Is Zimbabwe ready for the threat, some may call it the case, that comes with these minerals?
I will never entertain that what God has given us is a curse. If those who think it is a curse, it's themselves. To us, Zimbabwe is a blessing. We are so happy that we have lithium. We are so happy that gas has been found. We are so happy that we found oil. And we pray to God for giving us those things. Those who think a curse is their own problem. We as Zimbabweans were happy. And they have never been told by somebody that we are going to deal with you because gold has been found in your country. We are going to deal with you because there's lithium. No one has ever told me that nonsense.
But in some African producing countries, oil, they are not able to manage it well. So that's where the case comes in.
Now, you're given the answer to yourself. They are not able to manage it. If we've not been able to manage ours, if we fail, please tell me. Then I will just make sure we are managing.
Your Excellency, we have the country has discovered oil, but there's this move, there's this push to move away from fossil fuel. What is going to be Zimbabwe's position regarding this?
No, we move with times. If people are moving from fossil fuels to what? That's where we'll go. How can we remain behind? It's development. We'll move with times.
And we found that when it comes to carbon credits, Gabon is number one on the continent, followed by Egypt, and thank God Zimbabwe is number 3. But we see that the benefits are not agreeing to the country. Is it why the cabinet took the decision last week to cancel all?
Because those agreements were not done with the government. Surreptitiously, these people came into the country and arranged these arrangements with the villagers who are living next to the forests without us knowing. So when we discovered, we said, no. You are exploiting our people. You are exploiting our country. Get out. If you want to go and benefit, yes, you talk to us, and then we make an arrangement that is beneficial to us and beneficial to the investor. Finished. It's a pure democratic process. It was very undemocratic to come in people and behind the government, behind the authorities of the country. You're going to make this arrangement, exploiting our people.
Your Excellency, Zimbabwe has been making efforts towards debt resolution and arrears clearance. Could you break down the debt for us and where exactly is this debt coming from?
Most of the West countries are our creditors. And since the imposition of sanctions, we have not been able to service these debts. And it was perhaps around 8 billion or thereabout. But because of penalties and interest, it has now ballooned to about 15 billion. Plus the farmers' compensation, it becomes 17, the 3.5, it becomes 17 billion. We must find a way, a platform where we can discuss with the creditors for what other nations are benefiting from. Other nations can go to the Paris Club and negotiate for rescheduling of their debts, cancellation of their debts, and so on. And we do not have that access. So we decided to create this platform. I discussed with my young brother, the president of the African Development Bank, and they agreed to champion that exercise. And we thought we needed another top son of the soil of Africa. And we settled on the former president of Mozambique, President Joaquim Chissano, and we agreed. So we formed this platform where we are discussing with creditors to find a way of discussing this debt, either for its cancellation, for its variation, and to do so, it's quite simple. If you find the creditor, for instance, because of this thing, for the last 23 years, we've never had access of lines of credit from the international financial institutions, especially those under the Brentwood institutions. None. We've been surviving on our own. Now, if one of the creditors comes forward, and I think I don't know whether you attended the meeting we had here in Harare, and all the ambassadors here attended, and they one by one supported the process, that they will tell their capitals that this is a process that is useful to them and to us. So we are looking forward to a possibility of 1, 2, 3 of the creditors saying they can put forward, give us a 24-hour loan. See, you are given a 24-hour loan, it clears the debt. Once you clear the debt, then the institutions give you the money. Then the debt is paid back. The loan is paid back instantly. It's a 24-hour transaction. But you need to create that atmosphere, that positivity with the creditors, and it can be done. This is where we're driving to.
And you're seeing good progress in that?
So far, except for one country I want to mention, which is dilly-dallying, but it is doing better than we expected.
Why is this country dilly-dallying?
Well, it is so much entrenched against us. So it can just all of a sudden come out of the trench. It comes slowly and scouting the environment.
We saw on TV, Your Excellency, that the Americans were swimming against the tide in the room in Egypt.
No, they were not swimming against the room. They were not swimming as fast as others in the room.
So how do you see the disposition of America?
They've changed the course. Now they're becoming positive. That's what I saw. You were not in there.
No, I wasn't.
You see? So I was there. Could you see that this is positivity coming out of Washington?
Yeah. Your Excellency, this is quite interesting. Your Excellency, but some people are asking, why is Zimbabwe so focused now on debt clearance and so on, instead of consolidating its self-driven development, which it has become so famous?
No, you are lost.
Yes.
The debt burden becomes an issue to access finance because of debt burden. So it is necessary to be seen to be a good debtor by addressing the debt. That's what we're doing. So we have viewed the better.
But Your Excellency, has Zimbabwe accepted the conditionalities that is coming from creditor nations, especially political conditionalities, considering the issue of this debt?
What conditionalities? I'm not aware.
You know, they tell you issues to do with democracy.
None of those countries in the West fought for democracy.
Yes.
They only acknowledged it when you got it.
Yeah.
You see? So you mustn't think that we will learn democracy from the West.
Yeah.
No. We fought for it. We shed the blood for our democracy.
Yeah.
We are qualified to teach them democracy, not them.
Yeah.
Your Excellency, let me ask you this question about the 3.5 billion compensation to former commercial farmers. Friends of Zimbabwe abroad don't understand why this country should pay 3.5 billion to people who took land for us and paid nothing.
I understand. We have put it very well. People outside Zimbabwe fail to understand. Let me explain. Our own constitution of this country says we shall pay development on land, not compensation on land. Our land is not for sale. So that 3.5 billion relates to development on land which was brought in, that we make compensation because we took it over and it is benefiting us. So it's not compensation for land, no. It's compensation for development on land. So make sure those who do not understand the difference.
Okay. Your Excellency, under the Second Republic, devolution has gathered momentum. Is this a development strategy or a way of dealing with the multi-laden issue, especially the issue to do with colonization?
I'm so surprised that an African can ask that question.
Yes.
Our own constitution is a provision for devolution. And we are implementing. A president, when he's being sworn in, he must defend the constitution. And I'm defending it by implementing devolution.
So are you happy with the progress made so far in terms of devolution?
Go and ask villagers how happy they are by the devolution. Because now, for the first time, they access funds to deal with their immediate environmental problems they face, which was not there. We used to make decisions in Harare to affect a villager in Chipinge or in Plumtree. But now we put funds to the village in Plumtree, put funds to the village in Bite Bridge, put funds in Mandarin. At that village level, they decide what to do with the funding. That's the concept of devolution in our constitution, and they were implementing it. And I'm happy I'm obeying the constitution.
Yes. But is Zimbabwe fully devolved in terms of in its systems across all sectors in terms of devolution? There's got the local authority, the central government, and the district.
No.
District level.
There's a difference. 5% of the budget goes to devolution funds. But the local authorities, whether urban or rural, have their own different allocation of funding. It's not within the 5% of the budget. No. What we allocate to urban councils, rural councils is different and it's not specified. But with regard to this particular devolution, it's specified.
Mm-hmm. But do you think that the people who are supposed to champion devolution at central government level, at local government level, do you think they really understand it?
We have no other people except those who are there. Whether they understand or they don't, we have to use them. You can't bring other new people.
Your Excellency, you talk about the attack on the Zimbabwe dollar. My question is the multi-currency system serving this nation? Is it serving us?
In 2009, that's
2009.
because our currency, the sanctions had succeeded to destroy our Zimbabwean currency. When you wanted the bread, you needed to carry $2 billion to buy bread. That was not feasible. So that's when we abandoned our currency and allowed multiple currencies to apply, the dollar, the pound, the euro, the rand, and so on. We allowed to operate, and that stabilized our situation. No, but there is no country that can develop without its own currency. So we reached a stage now where we must have our currency, but it's under serious attack, but we will never abandon it. What we might do is to legislate against foreign currency, to make sure we use our own currency. So our people must know our currency is there to stay. Yeah, it must sink. It is there to stay. But foreign currencies of other countries are not there to stay.
Are they attacking the local currency because of the elections?
No, they attack whether there is election or no elections. They always attack our currency because they want to remain dominant in our system, and that's what we want to avoid.
And in terms of the auction, because we also have an auction regime here, do we think we need to have the auction regime?
As we go forward, we should reach a stage where we may not need it because it's not necessary. It has been put there to deal with a particular challenge. And I think that challenge is going away. And we may reach a stage very soon where we may not need it.
Your Excellency, we're about to finish. We are Zimbabwe is going to go for harmonized elections very soon. Your Excellency, what are your chances of winning this election? Oh,
even if I was asleep, you wake me and say, Mnangagwa, I'm going to win elections. Then start.
What is giving you that confidence?
Because people like ZANU-PF, wherever you go, they know about ZANU-PF, the Revolutionary Party. That brought them independence. What else would we want?
But, Your Excellency, still on elections, Nelson Chamisa of CCC continues talking about talks. Why are you not talking to him? And are there any chances of you, when you win?
He goes to the press to want to talk to me. No, if you want to talk to me, come to me, not to the press. I will not reply to statements in the press. No. A solid leader knows what to do if you want to talk to a colleague. You don't go through the press.
So are you implying that he has not tried to reach out to you directly as he claims?
That's what he claims. You're correct saying that's what he claims. And I'm not going to interrogate whether it has happened or not until it reaches me. Right.
Our last question, Your Excellency, is about Pollard. What is the future for Pollard? Is there going to be a Pollard after the elections?
This pollard was created after elections. The other elections are coming, we don't know the results. This was the result of the elections 2018, which required the pollard. Are you saying the next ones will also require pollard?
I'm just trying to look into the crystal.
Yeah, so I've told you what brings about pollard is the results of an election.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next results of election in August are not yet out.
Your Excellency, I want to thank you so much for this.
Thank you very much.